Hey everyone, this is Teresa from Base 10 Montessori, and today I thought I would give you a lesson on the dot game. And the dot game is really great because, first of all, for those who are on a budget, it can be a free game that you can play. It is a Montessori edition game, so it does have to do with math, and you can either make your own template or there are cheap options to download a template. So that's what I'm going to show you today. And let me give you a little bit of the background to the dot game before I actually show you how to do it. But I'm gonna give you a little background first, and then I'm gonna show you the presentation second. So if you don't want to know the background, you can go ahead, skip ahead to the presentation part. So a little bit about the dot game. The dot game shows the child how to do addition past 10,000 using dots instead of concrete objects. So the prerequisite to the dot game is the stamp game. So in the stamp game, we're using concrete objects such as the wooden stamps, or plastic stamps, or paper stamps, depending on what you have at your house. So in the stamp game, we're really limited to numbers up to 10,000. 9,999 is really as far as we go in the stamp game. Goodness, I gotta not get those two words confused, or you're not going to understand anything I'm saying here. So in the stamp game, before we do the dot game, we do the stamp game, and you can do operations up to 9,999. So when we introduce the dot game, we start working with the number 10,000 and higher. So this is just, again, like I've said in other videos, we have that isolation of difficulty in Montessori where each lesson is going to build on the previous lesson, and we're not going to add too many new things into what we're showing the child in each lesson. So we're going to keep building, and we're going to have that isolation of difficulty so that the child only has to be introduced to one or two new things in each new lesson. So the prerequisite is the stamp game, and really the child needs to be working very comfortably with dynamic addition into the thousands before I would introduce the dot game, because the dot game is going to be addition with really large numbers. And what you want to do before that is really build up the child's skills in working with the decimal system, as well as doing exchanging in the dynamic addition process. So and then the other thing here to look at is, what is the control of error? And what I mean by this, and I talk about this in all my videos, is how does the child know that they did the work correctly? And in every Montessori material, we always want to ask, what is the direct purpose and what is the control of error? So the control of error for the dot game, and this is from my AMI album, is it says the process is more important than the result. In other words, this isn't one that you really are going to want to have the child or you yourself add up all the numbers when they're done and see if they've done it correctly. This is one where if the child is understanding the process correctly and understanding how to build those numbers with dots and how to exchange those numbers, and also how to recognize numbers over 9,000, then that is the purpose of this game. And this is one I'll admit that I get really hung up on on correcting and trying not to correct. This is one that it's really hard to sit there and not correct them on. This is one I struggle with. So maybe if you need to walk away and then come back and check every so often, or just let the child come to you to be like, well, am I doing this right? Is this it? Because going through this dot game for the first time can be a little complicated, and it's easy to overcorrect, and then the child might get frustrated. So really, if they're not latching on to this game real quickly, I'd maybe back up a little bit and maybe wait a little bit longer to reintroduce it, or also introduce it with a friend or somebody maybe that has a little stronger concept, so they can have the peer assistance to get through this game. So really, we're not looking for making sure that they've added it all up correctly, although that's a bonus. We want to get there, right? But it's really more about understanding the process. So Usually in the Montessori environment, we introduce this around age 5.5. I've introduced this to my kindergartners, but I've also introduced it to some elementary students as well, some first graders, and it can still be a struggle to get through with some first graders. So I would say it's really good for ages 5 to 8, really. I mean, it really depends on the child. I don't want to get too hung up on age. I really want to get more focused on what is the journey to get to this game. And that's really the understanding of the decimal system and the understanding of addition. So the direct purpose, according to AMI, for the dot game is to develop further understanding of addition in the decimal system, to develop skills working with larger numbers, and to emphasize that in each category of numbers, there are never greater combinations than those from 1 to 9. So really that system of 1 to 9 shows up a lot in Montessori math, because if you can do math with the numbers 1 through 9, then you can do any kind of math, right? You can go, the sky's the limit on what numbers you can work with. So we really want to emphasize that that pattern of 1 through 9 in math. And then, of course, another direct purpose for this is the making of tens and counting tens. So that's another important system. And remember, just like the name of this channel, the Base 10 Montessori. So the name of the channel is Base 10 Montessori, and that's because that system of tens is really important. And again, the dot game is going to emphasize the importance of 10. The dot game will also it also helps the child understand the mechanics of carrying over from one category to the next, which is the dynamic addition rather than static addition. And it helps to further help the child become familiar with different categories, including 10,000, because up to this point in the stamp game, like I've said, 9,999 has been really the limit with the number that they've worked with, but this is going to allow them to go even further. And this is also where we introduce the concept of 10,000, as well as using the comma to separate numbers when we write them. And I'll show you what that looks like when we get to the presentation. And of course, where can you find the stamp game template so you can work with it? Well, your cheapest option is to do a do-it-yourself, a DIY template on a computer or on graph paper. I have a template that I made. The one I'm showing you today is one that I had to make for training. And I am not good at computer graphics. I'm not good at designing this stuff. So this was really actually very hard for me. And then I had a coworker that I worked with. I asked her if she could make me a template, and it's like, boom, done quickly. So if that's your skill, you may find this a really, really easy thing to make. However, if you're like me, sometimes you're like, you know what, I think I'd rather just spend a few dollars and not pull out all my hair and just buy a template. So if you want to buy something, the cheapest option for buying is Montessori Print Shop, and you can get a packet of $3, and I'll show you what that looks like in just a moment. The next affordable option is Montessori Outlet, and you can buy dot game supplies anywhere from $4 to $25, and I'll show you a little bit of what that looks like. And as always, the most expensive option is Need House, and that ranges anywhere from $25 to $50 for dot game materials, and I'll show you what that looks like. And let me switch over to showing you that right now. Okay, so here we are on the Montessori Print Shop website. Let me bring it up on my side of the computer so I can also see it. So here we are in Montessori Print Shop, and I'm on the USA site. Notice the USA. There's also a Canadian site. So here's the dot game, and like I said, it's $3. And in that, you're going to get the instructions, and it gives you one color master of the dot game and one black and white master of the dot game paper. Now, the reason why I am not showing you a Montessori Print Shop template, because you know I love Montessori Print Shop. I buy a lot of stuff through there, but I actually don't really like their dot game template. I'm a little bit of a stickler for how it looks visually. And to me, it just looks visually confusing. But if you're looking for something and you want the instructions to go with it, the Montessori print shop does have a very affordable option that comes in a PDF file. So all you have to do is download it and you're ready to go. I am thinking about maybe putting my template and my instructions on my locals page for my community members, and that would be something free if you subscribe to my locals community. So I think I'll put mine up there, but there's also the Montessori print shop. And let's just go to Montessori Outlet real quick. And here it is right here. So you can get 50 pieces, 50 sheets for the dot game exercise. Nothing fancy there, right? Just 50 pieces of paper, and then you can make copies from them if you have a copy machine. There's also, I want to say this is, I think I've seen this before, and I think it's maybe more of a dry erase board. I can't remember. It looks a little bit nicer, right, for $24. So that is what the Montessori Outlet has. And then, of course, Neen House. We love looking at Neen House, right? And you can get 50 sheets of the Montessori dot game exercise sheets for $26, it looks like. And then you have the dot exercise, and it looks like maybe that dry erase board concept again. I know there is a dry erase board version of this, and that might be it. And then they have this kit for $50 that has paper, and then the pencils, and this board, and then number cards. So that's where you can find it. Those are your options for getting the dot game. You can also do what some of us do and just do a Google search for the image and do a little screenshot. Sometimes on my phone, I'll do a screenshot of a template I like. I'll edit it on my phone, and then I'll print it out onto the copy machine, and voila, you have some dot game paper. So that's kind of a quick DIY little tidbit that you can use if you want to get started right away without spending tons of time building it. And then I want to show you real quick, before I show the lesson on my camera here, let me show you again kind of the lesson sequence before you get to the dot game. Now, I have a Montessori Print Shop offers this free booklet, and I have a video out that goes over what it looks like and how accurate it is. And so far, I've kind of liked it. So it's a free booklet if you're looking at trying to do a homeschool program where you're trying to implement Montessori in your home and you need more information or a list of materials and activities and lesson plans. This is a pretty good booklet for the 3 to 6 age group. I did not see one for elementary or toddlers. Maybe it's there and I haven't seen it, but they definitely have one for the primary age group. So if you're looking for a Montessori booklet on helping you out with getting started, this is pretty decent. It's not 100% like my albums, but I think for a free resource, this is pretty great. And I'm going to go to the math section, which is page 28, and you can just kind of see as we scroll through. It's a large booklet. It's got all the areas in there, plus some theory. And let's get to the math section. Almost there. 23. All right, let's keep going. Here we go to page 28. So we're in this math section, and it's going to tell you the groups right here. So Montessori math numbers to 10, and the decimal system is group 2, and the dot game can be found in the decimal system. So you go through the collective exercise, the stamp game, and then you get to the dot game after that. So let's just take a look real quick. Again, here's group 1, numbers 1 through 10 right here. And then it goes into the decimal system. And then you have doing the collective exercises, which is the golden bead material of learning, understanding the definition of what addition is, what subtraction is, what multiplication is, what division is. And we do short division, we do long division, static division, dynamic division, all that stuff, division with zeros. We do all of that stuff in primary age group. Second years and third years can both be doing some pretty complicated division for 4 and 5-year-olds. So anyways, as we get past the stamp game, we've got addition. I don't like that they put addition, multiplication. It should be addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. That's the proper order. So I don't like that they listed it like that. But anyways, you have the stamp game right here. Here's the dot game right here. And at the same time, before they get to the dot game, they really also should be working on their teens and tens. So that's one that they work in tandem. Teens and tens and the decimal system start being introduced at the same time. So by the time they get to the dot game, they've already had the teens and tens introduction. So that's the first thing I want to show you. Also, let's go back to, I've shown this lesson sequence panel before, and if anybody knows this person who designed it, J.M. Painel 2004, if anybody knows who that is, just thank them for me because I really enjoy this template that they made. I know Dr. Dubovois doesn't want us to get caught up on age groups or being very specific about what age a child should receive a lesson because it's really about the process and about following the child. But this is a nice overview. It's a nice little journey through the lessons in all your albums. So here in the blue, we have the math. These are all the math lessons in the blue for the AMI training. And you've got your numbers 1 through 10, right about 3.5 to 4 years old. And then 4.5 to 4.5, you start getting into the decimal system, understanding units, tens, hundreds, thousands. And then at 4.5, you start getting into the decimal system, which is you're going to start learning addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. And you're going to do that with the golden beads. And you're also going to start working in the teens and tens category. And then you're going to start doing that stamp game. And around the time you're doing the stamp game, the children are also linear counting and skip counting with those bead chains. And then once they've really solidified that, and don't rush through that, they really need to solidify that. That's when you start getting into the dot game. So that's going to be between 5.5 years old that you can do the dot game. And honestly, I haven't seen many 5-year-olds that have really taken to the dot game. Usually that's going to be closer to 6 from what I've seen. I could be wrong. Other people might have different experiences. But I haven't had a 5-year-old really take to the dot game yet. So I would say it's probably closer to 6. But that's why we don't really totally fixate on the age in which a child gets to a lesson. It's more about the process and about the journey to a certain lesson rather than the age. So the dot game comes around the same time as the addition snake game. So if they're doing the addition snake game, might as well give it a try, see if the dot game clicks with them. And if you don't know what the addition snake game is, I have good news. I ordered a bunch of materials, including the snake game, so I will be able to do a lesson on the snake game soon and start diving into that. So if that sounds interesting to you, that's another math game, and it's one I love. And surprisingly enough, it's a game that I've heard other people say they don't love at all. So to each his own. But anyways, the dot game is right here around between ages 5 and 6. And I would say if they're in elementary school, they may still really enjoy this. And if they're in public school and they don't have the background, they're just developing their understanding of the decimal system in a public school setting, I would still introduce the dot game to them. It might be something to help them solidify and understand what the decimal system is all about and how it works. So that being said, I'm just going to show you really quickly the template that I have is right here. This is the one I had to make for training. And I'll scroll down a little bit. This is what I put in my album. I did not have the ability or I didn't have the knowledge or understanding of how to put the dots in here. I think I did this all in Microsoft Word, which I don't recommend. It was terrible. And I just could not get dots in these boxes. It was too temperamental. So all the grayed out parts with the lines, those should have dots in them. And then the red boxes should have red dots. So that was a little issue I had with making an example of this, and I'll show you what this looks like. There are two presentations to the dot game. I may only get to one today, or I might give a little quick overview. I haven't decided. We'll see how much time I have left at the end of my first presentation. But presentation 1 looks like this. Presentation 2, it's really the same thing. It's just that you're going in a different direction. You're going by units, tens, hundreds, thousands, whereas the first presentation, you're going by whole numbers. And if that doesn't make sense, don't worry. I'm going to show you right now what that means. All right, so here we are. And I'm going to try really hard to do this without bumping my camera or the microphone. So when you get to the dot game, first of all, ignore the numbers I put right here. I just put a few down to start with. But when you get to the dot game paper, the first thing we do is we orient the child to the paper. So we might go through and we're going to take a look at, and we're going to find what's familiar. So we're going to point out, we have the units, have the child identify the units and say, what's this? I can say that's a 10. And how many zeros does 10 have? 10 has 1 0. And this is 100. How many zeros does 100 have? 2 zeros. What about this one? Well, the child has worked with this number before too. They said, so they'll say 1,000. And how many zeros does 1,000 have? And they'll count them. And then you're going to go over here. Now, they have not probably seen 10,000 yet. If it's a Montessori school, if the child is going through the sequence of materials that I showed you before, this is where we would introduce the 10,000. And I would say, if I can do this without blocking it too much on my camera, block out those 3 zeros right there at the end. And just ask the child, what is that number? And the child will say 10. And how many zeros are in 10? 1. And then you can block out the 10 and ask the child to count how many zeros are there. Okay, well, if there's 1, 2, 3 zeros, it's in the same family as 1,000. So that means 1,000. So we have the number 10 and we have the 1,000 family. So that means we have 10,000. And to show that this is in the 1,000 family, there's something that we can put there. And you can introduce this at the beginning or the end of the lesson, but you can say 1, 2, 3 zeros means this is 1,000. So it's part of the 1,000 family. And to show the category, the group of numbers, we put a comma right there. So 1, 2, 3 means 1,000. And it's separated by a comma so that the 1 goes there. And that shows us 1,000. It shows us 2 different groups. It shows us the units and the family of the thousands. And here, 1, 2, 3, comma. So we have the family of the thousands. What's the grouping we have right here? 10. So we want to show that grouping and we want to show how to use that comma. So once we've shown the numbers, we've shown something familiar, and now we've shown something new. Now we want to orient the child to the boxes, and we're going to have the child count how many boxes are in each category. So let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There are 10 boxes in the units. And so each line has 10 boxes. Let's count the tens. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. The tens also have rows of 10 boxes. And so you're going to keep doing this until you get through every category, and you're going to show that each row is made up of 10 boxes. And that's when you start going over to here and you tell the child, I'm going to think of a really large number. And for my first number, I picked 8,785. And then you would write down the number that you pick. And then you can ask the child, okay, well, why don't you pick a big number this time? And I would really encourage the child to pick something that doesn't have zeros, ones, twos, but particularly zeros. Zeros are no fun. And I tell the child with this game, zeros are no fun. We want big numbers. And so maybe the child picks 9,756. And we'll just keep going. We'll keep filling it out. But for right now, their first time through, don't make it too big, but you're going to want it big enough to show the concept of exchanging, but maybe not fill in the whole entire sheet because that's going to take a while, and they probably won't finish their first time through because it takes a lot to get it down. So let's say first time through, you just do a few numbers. That's pretty easy for the child to do. You don't want to exhaust them the first time through. So let me show you first of all how to do the first presentation. And sometimes if the child is still getting a little confused with their categories, or if this new sheet has difficulty, gives them a little difficulty for orienting the numbers to, sometimes I just like to put up here units, tens, hundreds, thousands. And you can color code them. If it helps the child to organize their work, you can do the green, blue, red, green. And we're not going to do 10,000s in this column. We're only going to stick with the thousands right here. The 10,000s are really for when we're working at the very end. So I'll show you how that works. So you're just going to start with just your family of the units and thousands. So let me show you how to turn numbers into dots with this game. So what I like to tell the child is we're going to have all these numbers, and we're going to turn these numbers into dots, and then we're going to turn the dots back into numbers again. And that's what I tell them when we start this game. So first of all, let's look at our first number, 8,785. What's our unit here? There are 5 units. So I'm going to go over here, and we work left to right with the dot game. So we're going to find the unit boxes. We're going to start at the very left, and we're going to make 5 dots. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And what I like to do, and this wasn't in my album, but I like to do this to help the child stay organized, is when I filled out a number, I just lightly cross it out like that. Not too dark. I want them to still see the number, but maybe just give a little cross through. So now I know it's time to move on to tens. How many tens do we have? 8. So let's find the beginning of our tens box, all the way here on the left. We need to make how many dots? 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I'm going to go back here, and I'm going to cross it off. Now what about the hundreds? Let's do 700. All right, here's our hundreds. Start at the left. How many hundreds? 7. Let's make 7 dots in the hundreds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Cross it off very lightly. Let's move on to the thousands. We have 8 thousands. Let's find the very beginning of our thousands. Right here, we need to make 8 dots. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Cross it off. All right, we just filled in our whole first number. So what I like to do is I like to make a little check mark. That group is done. Now let's move on to our next one. Let's start with our units again. How many units do we have in our next number? We have 6. Okay, so we're going to go back and find our units again. We've made this line of units. We're going to pick up where we left off. We always pick up where we left off. We don't go to the next row below. We start with the next one. So we have 6 units, and we're going to start right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right, and notice when I ran out of room here, I just keep going to the next box. Cross out the 6. All right, how many tens? Let's do 5 tens. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Cross it off. How many hundreds? 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All right, let's take a look. How many thousands? 9. Right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. All right, I'm going to show you one more example, and then I'm going to switch to a different sheet that's all filled in so I can show you the next step. So let's fill in one more number. Oh, let's check that off. That one's done. Let's find our units again. 9 units. Here's where we left off. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Let's find our tens. We have 7 tens. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Wow, look at that. Filled it out perfectly that time. Didn't even mean to do that. It's funny the things that happen with the dot game. You'll notice sometimes you'll just hit the same number over and over again. It's really interesting. All right, hundreds. Let's see, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then 3,000. 1, 2, 3. Look at that. I didn't even plan it. So anyways, you can keep going, and let me show you what it looks like if we keep making big numbers and we fill out the whole thing. Hopefully you can see I made all the numbers before I pre-did it so that you wouldn't have to watch this for 5 hours, me just making dots. So let's say we do a ton of numbers and we fill in all those dots. What do we do next? Okay, let me show you. So in order to do the next step, you're going to need a red pencil and a little ruler or a big ruler. That's up to you. So what we're going to do now is we're going to show the child that each row of 10 has to be exchanged. And when we exchange, we stop and exchange for the next one higher. And the child has learned this already in the stamp game. We've gone through exchanging a lot in the stamp game. So that should feel familiar. So kind of remind them that when they're doing the stamp games, hey, something happens. When we get to 10, something special happens. And they should automatically say, we stop and exchange for the next one higher. So I'll say, let me show you how we exchange with the dot game. So we know we have this full complete row of dots. So I get to cross them out. So I put a line through it. That means that that row is complete. And when I put a line through a complete row of dots, I'm going to go down to the box right here. And I'm going to put one dot right there. So one line you cross out gives you one dot down here. And I'm going to show you later what we're going to do with that dot. So now let's see, we have a second complete row. So we've got 2 rows, which means we now have 2 dots in this box right here. Let's go to the next one. Okay, a third row equals a third dot in this box. And a fourth row, 4 dots. A fifth row, 5 dots. And a sixth row, 6 dots. But take a look at this last row right here. It's not complete. So what do? Well, the ones that are not complete are the ones we have left over, and those tell us the answer for this category. So for the units, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We have 6 units. So this bottom box that's still empty, we're going to write the number 6. Now, I'm going to do this a little bit different than how they taught me in my training center because I think it helps to use the red pencil to do this. So how many dots do we have right here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We have 6 dots. And what do we do when we have to exchange? We exchange for the next one higher. So these 6 dots need to go to the next one higher. So I'm going to write the number 6 right here. So these 6 dots are going to be what we exchange. So 6, the number 6 right here, tells us how many dots we need to make in the tens because we had to exchange. So this 6 tells me to make 6 dots right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So do you see how we do the 6 dots right there? That's our exchange. So once we've exchanged, now we can go back to crossing out rows, just like we did before. How many complete rows of 10 do we have? Let's find out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We have 7 complete rows. How many do we have left over? If you can see it, 2. So 2 is going to be our answer for the tens. Now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 tells us how many we're going to exchange. So I'm going to write the number 7 in the hundreds column, and I'm going to say 7 is how many dots I need to make in the hundreds from exchanging. So let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So now that we've done that, we've made our exchange. Let's see how many complete rows of 100 there are. One row is 1 dot. Another row, another dot. 3 rows, 3 dots. Another dot. Now, it's a little bit hard to see sometimes, so I would say if you want to use the red pencil to make the rows, that would be okay. All right, so let's see, how many do we have left over? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 5 is our answer. And now let's count and see how many we have to exchange. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right, so that means we're going to exchange 6. So the number 6 tells me how many dots to make in this box. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right. Now let's see how many complete rows of tens we have in the thousands. All right, and how many do we have left over? If you can see it, 1, 2, 3, 4 are left over. So that's our answer for the thousands. Let's see how many we have to exchange to the 10,000s. Now, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So another 6. Sometimes that happens a lot. You'd be surprised how many times the same number repeats in the dot game. It's kind of interesting. All right, so 6 is how many we're going to exchange to the 10,000. And you can tell there's nothing in there yet. So we're going to start at the very beginning and we're going to make 6 dots. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 6 is all we have. That is as much as we're going to get in that one. So that's our answer. So now we're going to come over here. We've done everything. We've written our answer. We've done our exchanges. But now we have to write our answer over here. So how many units do we have for our answer? 6 units. Tens. 2 tens. 500. 4,000. And 6 10,000. Let's not forget we introduced the child to the comma that separates it. So we have 64,526. And that's our answer. So that is the first way to do the dot game. I think this presentation went a little bit long, so I'm going to say if you're interested in the second presentation, I can show you that one. I'll give you a little quick example. So instead of doing, how we went through units, tens, hundreds, thousands, and filled them into dots, well, instead of doing it that way, you can do by category. So first you can fill in the 5 dots for the units, and then just go down to the 6, and then you keep going until you filled in all the units. And then you can do all the tens next, all the hundreds, all the thousands. For me, I find that actually to be a little bit easier, but it is the second presentation technically in the AMI album. So if you're interested in seeing what that looks like, just drop a comment below and I will certainly be happy to show you that next one. So there's the dot game. Like I said, I think my template here, I think I'm going to try and post it on my locals page for anybody who follows me there. They can access a copy of that there. If not, you can go to one of the many examples I showed you before. And as far as future presentations go, I've got a lot of materials ordered and I'm excited to show you some of those, but I'm not sure how long it's going to take to get them. So until then, I might still be working with more paper materials rather than the concrete materials. So we'll see. Also, I look forward to making some more videos about my baby chicks and ducks that are here. That's something I'm going to be live streaming. And I'm also going to start doing live Q&A sessions, either about the chicks, the ducks, what's going on at my farm, or you can ask me questions about Montessori or education, or even behavior. If you're having behavior issues and you wanted to drop in on a live Q&A session, you can get some advice on maybe some of the things that are happening at home or at school with your child, and I can try and give you some of my best insight for that as well. So I'm going to start doing those soon. So I hope that you liked today's content. I hope this presentation was easy for you to understand, and if not, please comment below, but also don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so that I can build this community and make more videos for you. So that being said, I will see you in the next video.